All right, it is 12:30, so we're going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. I would like to welcome you to today's webinar on nutrition. Before we get started, please take note of the Q&A box on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen where you can submit questions for Michelle at the end of the program. And with that being said, I would like to turn the program over to our Perlmutter Cancer Center registered dietitian, Michelle Mock. And we would like to thank you for joining us today, and we're really excited to hear your presentation.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you so much for coordinating this and letting us have this platform to be able to talk about nutrition. Today I'm going to speak about hunger and how that translates in the body, what it means to the body, but in particular on how hunger can be a pathway toward having optimal nutrition during cancer, to prevent cancer, during cancer treatment, and also moving forward into cancer survivorship. Oh, you know, I didn't check to see if I could change this. So I have this screen, but I don't know if I can change it, if I can change my page.
Michelle, you should be able to either use the arrow on your keyboard or if not, right click and advance it that way. Yay!
Okay, I got it. All right.
You did it.
So and this series has been focusing on mindful eating as a way to optimize nutrient intake. And my emphasis will be on mindful eating and hunger. And some of the things I want you to remember is that mindful eating is, at its core, is about being kind to yourself and being kind to your body. So when we experience hunger, we want to work on making choices that are the most supportive to our own body's health. And hunger, I mean, there are many reasons why people might feel hungry or your feelings of hunger, but hunger is really just an inner voice telling the body or telling your mind that it's time to look for food because your body needs energy. Mindful eaters are those, it's a skill, right? It's a we used to be mindful eaters when we were born, when we were infants, when we were children, but now we have to learn how to become again mindful eaters. So when we're eating mindfully, we're training our mind to listen to that voice, to hear that voice, and respond accordingly. It's just hunger. It just exists. It's just a signpost. So there's nothing. It's just a direction. It's telling us this is what has to be done. So that's where I want to start you with. Okay, so hunger is a biological need. If you think of hunger, I mean, so what happens biologically? The sugar drops. The hypothalamus gets into action to send out hormones to get us to feel hungry. So we get that growling in the stomach, we get that feeling of feeling hungry. And then we eat, and then after eating, the hormones reverse and we're no longer hungry. This is a feedback loop. This has been happening for millennia, and it works on its own without us having to do anything to it. But there are times when we ignore hunger. Or there are times when we have to hold out, or there are times when we eat without being hungry. But if you think of ignoring your hunger, it's a biological need. So you're going to feel unpleasant or not good until you satisfy that biological need. So think of it as, you know how when you go underwater and you hold your breath and you have a biological need to breathe, so you rush up and now you breathe? It's the same thing with hunger. If you ignore your hunger and you don't eat, when you do eat, it's, and then it's just everything inside. So we don't want to ignore hunger. We want to recognize hunger, accept hunger as part of a plan to keep our bodies healthy. What happens is that when the body's undergoing cancer treatment, hunger changes. So you may not feel hungry, and fullness changes. So you might get, instead of feeling full, you have pain, some type of abdominal distension. So those things change, and we have to recognize that as well. So your dietitian, myself or other dietitians, may recommend, rather than waiting for you to feel hungry because your body may not feel that, we eat frequently on a time schedule. So that might be something that has to happen. Before cancer prevention, we want to honor the hunger and eat accordingly. But then afterwards, as a survivor, you'll want to think about things like, what am I putting into my body to keep my body optimally healthy? So eventually your hunger is going to come back and you're going to be able to respond to it accordingly. So how do we become aware of this? There are many feelings that you might get when you're feeling hungry. Some of the things that you can do is you can use this hunger scale, where 1 is extreme hunger, and then 5 is extreme fullness. So neither extreme hunger nor extreme fullness feel good. If we're really, really hungry, we're feeling really, really bad until we satisfy that hunger. And if we're really, really full, we're not comfortable until the digestion kicks in and we start to feel a little bit better. So neither of those are optimal. So what we want to do is, as a mindful eater, start eating when your body starts to tell you it's feeling hungry. And even if you don't eat a full meal, eat a little bit, just a little snack to get you through until you get to your meal. Another thing that you can practice is a breathing exercise. And if you want to, we can practice this now, just a regular breathing exercise. And this is something that I like to practice before a meal as a way to kind of prepare for the meal or become present for that meal. A lot of people do this. People they say a grace before eating meal. So a lot of people do this. This is not an uncommon thing. And it could have it could be in a way to prepare to get your body ready to eat. So one thing that I do is I'll breathing in. You could breathe in to the count of 3. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. And do that 3 or 4 times just to kind of get yourself settled, and you're there for the date, right? You're there for your meal date, because your mind can be anywhere. But once you start practicing your breathing, then your mind comes back home and you're there, so that now you can respond to your body accordingly, because now your mind is here at home. So we know that there are a lot of reasons why people eat, right? Not just because of hunger. And we know that during treatment, we might need to eat to keep our bodies energized, to keep our nutritional status even. And but we also know that before a diagnosis or after treatment, you might be eating for other reasons. And even during treatment, you might be eating for other reasons. There are many reasons people eat because of emotion or distraction, or maybe you're obsessed thinking about food. So there are many reasons. So it's important to examine that. What's the best decision to make? And kind of trying out that breathing exercise and analyzing where your hunger level is can be really helpful. But really proceeding with that kind of awareness, and always eating if you feel hungry, if it's available to you, if food is available to you, and always eating and always finishing when you're feeling satisfied, rather than that uncomfortable full feeling. All right, so emotional hunger. We know we can eat without feeling hungry, right? We all can do that. So there are reasons why you might want to eat, and you may feel that eating will make you feel more secure or nurtured or loved or appreciated. You might feel as if you deserve this. I've gone through this whole week. I've worked so hard. I deserve this, or whatever it is. The thing is that when you eat without feeling hungry, you're not really satisfying your hunger, and you don't really satisfy the other need. So paying attention to what's really going on inside of your body, but also inside of your mind, can be a really important tool toward accepting yourself and accepting your needs as valid. Hunger, once you've satisfied all of your other needs and you eat because you're hungry, then you will feel the food becomes a pleasure, eating becomes a pleasure. But until those needs are filled, food is not going to do that for you. So what we want to do is have an appetite for health, right? We want to eat healthfully. And there are many resources available to us to be able to do that. I often tell patients while we're going through chemo, we're just eating to survive. So whatever feels comfortable for your body is the way we're going to go for. That's what we're going to go for. But then once we're moving into survivorship, we want to really eat healthfully and start thinking about food in a different way. We know that there are plenty of things that we're in our current culture. I'm talking American culture and how we eat and the foods that we choose that are not supportive to the health of the body, to the health of the body. So there's a lot of resources available to us. The American Institute of Cancer Research is putting out a lot of information on promoting nourishing foods, eating nourishing foods, so that you can have that's essential. It's essential to life. So things that are more plant-based, a plant-based diet, which doesn't mean that you have to give up, other foods that you might enjoy eating, such as meat, fish, poultry. But it does mean that when you look at your plate, most of it should come from plants. And in that way, you're getting the most nutrition that you can from that plate. And that's the way you want to move forward in order to have the optimal health. There's another really great website. It didn't come in. Okay. There's another really great website that you can take a look at. It's called, and unfortunately, the slide didn't upload to this, but it's called Oldways, OLDWAYSPT.org, oldwayspt.org. This is a great website, and it talks a lot about traditional diets. And the reason why that's important is because the way our ancestors have something to teach us, right? The way they used to eat is kind of an important piece for us to recognize as health promoting for whatever's happening in our lives right now. Your body has a genetic code. We know this, right? We understand this. But that genetic code is ancient. The DNA is ancient. And the way we eat doesn't necessarily, microwave or fast food or all of that stuff doesn't necessarily jive with the health of our ancient body. And I don't mean ancient in years. You understand what I'm saying? So the traditional diets can be really helpful. And it doesn't matter. I mean, the most common traditional diet is Mediterranean diet. Okay. And there's meat in that diet. There's fish and there's, allowance for meat in that diet, but mostly it's plant-based. And that's true for the traditional diets. They're mostly plant-based. So when I tell people, well, Mediterranean diet, but Mediterranean diet is just one of. You can have any other, you can take your traditional food, which is plant-based, and plug it into the Mediterranean diet plan. And then that's also going to be a health-promoting diet for you. So the important piece is not to shut down because you're not from the Mediterranean, right? The important piece is to adapt to the diet plan in a way that most supports your health. So I encourage you to get onto that website if you're looking for different ideas, different recipes, different ways to incorporate different cuisines, culinary history into your diet plan. So this is our cheat sheet for living in balance. So now again, remember when I told you there are other things that have to be satisfied for you to feel satisfied, so that you don't go for food as trying to make you feel something that food shouldn't be making you feel. So good sleep is really important. And I know that's been a big topic of late because we've all been going through this pandemic, the limits of our lives because of the pandemic, and it does cause anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety going on and making it very difficult to have a good sleep. But good sleep is very important to health. Reducing stress, you can use that breathing exercise that we did earlier to reduce stress, but just keeping your body moving, daily movement it can be really an important piece in reducing stress. So that doesn't mean you have to go out and run a marathon, but going out and walking for 5 or 10 minutes a day and doing that maybe 2 times or 3 times throughout the day can be transformative. especially now, as you know, in this and as the nicer weather comes, it can be transformative as far as your mental health, and it also relieves the stress and allows you to later be able to sleep well. So all of that is important. Nurturing positive emotions is important. I mean, you know, negative things happen, right? This is life, right? Life happens. But if we only look at it from that glass half empty, then we're never going to be able to see that we still have a glass full. We still have a half full that we have available to us. So looking at the glass half full becomes very important to your state of mind. That's preventing cancer, during treatment, and after in survivorship. That's important pieces for us to keep in mind. Sense of well-being, that just goes back to, you know, all of us need to feel loved. All of us need to feel nurtured. And so if that means starting with you loving yourself, then that's where we go. Because in the end, it's you and your health. So you loving yourself is an important piece. Maintaining health and wellness, but also goes in line with honoring your hunger. So remember, this is a biological need. Let's not ignore it, and let's give the body what it needs to stay healthy. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. That was great information. We really appreciate that. If anyone has questions, there's a Q&A box on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, so feel free to type in any questions. Okay, Michelle, we have a question here for you.
Okay.
Do we still recommend 6 to 8 ounces of fluid per day?
Okay, yes, you should still be drinking plenty of fluid. All right, so the fluid thing, you know, that's really based on weight also. So if you have somebody who's, I mean, really, who's 100, 110 pounds, and you're asking them to drink, you know, half a gallon of liquid a day, that's going to really take up a lot of space. So I would rather see people eating food first instead of getting their calories from beverages, and then using water second. And so for somebody who's a tiny person, they can probably do 5 to 6 glasses of water or cups of water a day. And somebody who's has a larger body frame, they can do more, you know, up to 8, even more if they have a really large body frame. In fact, we see a lot of dehydration in people who are larger body frame because they're not drinking as much for whatever reason. So definitely you want to stay with the fluid intake. That's really important.
Okay. So we have another question here about intermittent fasting. We hear so much about intermittent fasting and its health benefits, to include reduction of inflammation, which is important in terms of cancer survivors. How does that approach compare to eating smaller meals when hungry? The latter makes sense to me, but there is so much hype about intermittent fasting and health.
Okay, so recently I did do a workshop on intermittent fasting with chemotherapy, and there is some evidence that it can help a lot. And I don't want to drag it out, but basically it's our bodies, just as any other animal on this earth, are designed to be able to withstand periods of not eating, longer periods of not eating. And our bodies go into a protective mode, our normal cells. So when we're dealing with, if some of the things you have to take into consideration is how well nourished is your body. So if intermittent fasting in a malnourished person may not be the best choice, all right? The other thing you want to take into consideration is, okay, I'm going to tell you, just from my own experience, I don't like fasting. It hurts. It's not for me. So that, I think, is part of honoring the ancient quality of your body. You know, you have to pay attention to what's going on with your body. So if fasting works for you, then it can be okay. But I really think that and there are plenty of religions, like in Ramadan, that there's no eating between and daylight hours. So there are plenty of like religious ceremonies that require some type of fasting, but it really depends on the health of the body. So if your body is well nourished and strong enough to go through intermittent fasting, and that's something that you want to try, that's okay. But if it's not, then don't do it, because you might put yourself in more risk.
Okay, that is good advice. We have another question here. What is moving meditation?
Okay, so moving meditation. So this can be something really fun for those of you who are in New York City. When I was working in New York City, I used to do a lot of moving meditation. So basically, it's just paying attention to your body as it moves, so that even moving, even walking, can be a time where you can have meditation in motion, where you can be in a meditative state. So you can do something like, my body is moving, I know I'm walking, and just repeating that as you walk, or inhale, I walk, exhale, I move, inhale, I walk, just having some kind of mantra, but it's connecting to the movement of your body. And in this way, it becomes a meditative practice, which is, can be really great. Like sometimes you're walking and you're thinking of like 1,000,001 things that you have to do, rather than paying attention to what's happening to your body, or looking around and seeing what's happening in the world, the real world, the world that you're seeing in front of you, not the world that's anywhere else.
Okay. We have another question here. If 3 meals per day are not consumed, what are the best times of day to eat?
So this is for people who might want to just eat 1 or 2 meals a day, you mean? Okay. So when you're coming from, really depends. Again, I mean, I meet people who don't have hunger in the morning, and so they prefer to start their day of eating at lunchtime. So it really depends on a couple of things. Are you taking any medication that requires you to eat? So then breakfast, if you're taking your medication in the morning, breakfast is mandated, right? Do you have issues with blood sugar levels? So then you have to eat a little bit throughout the day. That's mandated, right? So it really depends on on what's going on as far as health with your body. But I think if you want to do like that sit down meal, then breakfast might be a very important meal for you to break your fast, right? For your overnight fast. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be a small thing. But then lunch, it depends on what the situation is. So if you're looking for like weight management stuff, I would probably do the big meal at lunchtime and then something like light at dinner. But if it's not weight management, then breakfast and dinner are going to be your main meal.
Okay. Another question here. I still cannot digest meat post-treatment and green leafy vegetables. Any diet meal suggestions?
Okay, so if you really love red meat, then that could be a problem, right? So, I mean, most AICR and most people who are looking at food and the Cancer Connection suggest cutting back or even eliminating red meat. So if that's something that you want to think about, that's probably what you should be doing. But if you really love it, then you're just going to have just a little bit, because your body is going to have difficulties with it as far as digestion. I think the easiest thing to do and this is, I mean, those of you who really, really love meat, when I say to you, probably the easiest thing is to grind it up and have it kind of like a broken up before you start, rather than having a piece of steak. But if you really love meat, I'm saying something not really great for you, not really great for your desires. But it may be that you might have to, the body changes. So even if you're not going through the whole journey of chemotherapy, of cancer and chemotherapy, you may become a different person later in your life and not be able to eat meat anyway. the body changes. And it may just be that your body has changed, and it might be just, something that's just too much for you to eat at this time. But it might be easier if you really, really want it to start it off with, grounded first. Now, as far as vegetables go, it might be easier for the food to be cooked in the same way, kind of initiating the whole digestive process before it hits your mouth. So cooking makes it a little bit easier to digest than having raw leafy vegetables or undercooked leafy vegetables. So that can be helpful.
Okay, that is good advice right there. We have another question about sugar. Sometimes I feel hunger when I've had plenty of healthy food to eat, but have not had dessert. I suspect this is a sugar addiction. What can we do to overcome this horribly unhealthy craving?
All right. So if you listen to Alana's webinar a couple of months ago, there are no bad foods. So I want you to get that out of your mentality, okay? It's okay if you've had a good balanced meal and you want a little bit. It's okay. It's actually better to allow yourself a little bit than to restrict and deny yourself, because then eventually you're going to binge. Eventually you're going to get there and it's going to be out of control, and then you're going to feel badly about it. So if you really want that, then I think if you really want that chocolate, I think you should eat it, okay? But you just have a little bit, all right? Not the whole bar, just a little bit. Or switch to fruit. Fruit is the best sugar high that you should be on, if that's a possibility. Start with as much as you can. Eat your fruit first, and then you can have your little bit of chocolate.
That's a great tip, and it's good to know that chocolate is not off limits, so that's very positive to hear. A couple more questions that came through. I have limited salivary glands, and I cannot taste. It's hard to break down food. What can I eat that's healthy?
Okay. If you're going through treatment and you're having this real dryness, some of the things that I would suggest is rinsing often. And the over-the-counter and Biotin, that over-the-counter mouthwash, can be very helpful for dry mouth. Drinking as much as possible. Rinsing, you don't have to buy something over the counter. You can also do salt water or baking soda and water and rinse often. Now, the dryness, it can help to have juicy foods. So like something that can be really helpful with the taste. And as long as there's no pain in the mouth, as long as there's no open sore, you can try something like sucking on a lemon to kind of wake up those taste buds. So suck on a lemon before eating, or pickles, something like that, to kind of like shock them awake. So you can try that. And if it's really, really dry, your mouth, then I would go with like juicy stuff like gravy, using broth to kind of loosen, kind of soften the food, making it a little bit easier to have in your mouth.
Okay. And I think that's it. We just got one very kind comment. Thank you. That's very helpful. And I agree, Michelle. Thank you so much for a great webinar. It was really wonderful information and very informative. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I would like to
thank
thank all attendees for joining us today. We will see you next time, and have a great weekend.
Have a happy Mother's Day, everyone, if you're a mother.
Happy Mother's Day. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.